Absolutely. It's great to have you on. I'm looking forward to digging into talking a little bit about Cafecito, talking about, how it can help Bootstrap founders, talking about maybe why you built it. And then I'm interested to hear how the donation, you have basically a donation model right now. I want to hear more about that. And then talk about growth goals, and we'll probably bat some stuff around there and try to figure out, brainstorm some ways to help you get there. So I think the first thing is, producer Xander, can you pull up a screenshot of the homepage, so folks watching can see, and for folks who are listening to this later on the podcast, H1 is, you deserve a cafecito. Break away from your task and enter thought-provoking conversations with tech creatives worldwide. And it's nice looking site. It's pretty simple. There's a get early access button up at the top that it's cool. See, Xander's running the screens and I'm talking through. So click that get early access, producer Xander, and let's see the form. So you built this form in Airtable. Bravo.
That is
And
Airtable.
it's
Yep. Yep.
it's basically get started. Yeah, isn't that cool? And so you're asking for first name, best email, city, state, country, um, role, occupation, career, and a social URL to confirm you're a real person, and then topics you're interested in discussing the most. And you have a ton of stuff. I mean, it looks like there's about 40 or 50 different topics: 3D printing, comic books. Ooh, I might have to give this a try. Concerts, cooking, design. Wait, you skipped Dungeons and Dragons. Should Dungeons and Dragons be there? I'm just kidding. I'm sure everyone who uses this says, "Hey, can you add my completely esoteric interest to your
Yeah,
to your form?" You
for
get a lot of
sure.
requests. Hey, you're like, "Come on, I need like nested drop downs to do this." But yeah, you
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
bunch of
seriously.
interest there, and then producer Xander, what's down at the bottom of this form here? Yeah, yeah. So and then it's like, pick your preferred times to join, for 20 to 25-minute breaks, and then how did you hear about Cafecito? So is the idea that, if I'm home and socially isolated, which, I have 3 kids and a wife, but I'm kind of isolated from my peers, that I would fill this out. I'd of course select like comic books and Dungeons and Dragons and whatever else. And then, is it a recurring thing that I'm trying to do like once a week or twice a week? What's your thought process here of how to get folks, to feel less isolated?
Yeah. So the bigger vision is to have it be a way to take those breaks daily. Right now, because of the system that we have set up, it's all no code. It's a little hard to have it so that it's a daily break happening with a new person every time. So for the since February, since almost like March as well, when we went virtual, I've been doing it weekly. So every week you would receive one curated match based on your objectives and your interests. We have an algorithm right now that runs pretty much on a weekly basis and matches you with like-minded folks. And then there's a part to it where I also make sure to go through and make sure all of those matches make sense as well. So there's a slight human element for right now. I'm sure it won't be possible once we get larger, but for the moment, I enjoy making sure people are going to have a good experience, and I think that human eye can sometimes catch any errors that might come up with the algo. And
Yep.
yeah, so once we grow more, we'd love to, switch over to daily breaks, which is the ideal form because the more that you can intentionally set these blocks of time on your schedule, the more proactive you can be about it, but also it's already there. So all you really have to do is log in, hit the link, jump on your computer, or even just call in via your phone and have that quick break that you can just take while you're walking, sitting outside, right? So that's the bigger goal. We'll get there hopefully soon. But for right now, it's on a weekly basis.
Got it. And the idea is that ultimately that someone would carve out 20 minutes a day to have a conversation with essentially a new person.
Yeah,
That's the
correct.
idea.
Yeah.
And I mean, the answer to this one may be obvious. It seems like you built this to scratch your own itch because you had this problem. Is that why you decided? Because this isn't something that you go off and say, "All right, I'm going to make $1 million. I'm going to go build a matching
Yeah.
thing that's going to, have." I mean, did it just stem out of your own kind of loneliness, I guess?
Yeah. And I think loneliness overall, I think it's somewhat not really talked about that much. It's kind of, you start working remote. We know one of the cons is, hey, you're going to be working by yourself 8 hours a day. And you just kind of accept that. So when I moved from Miami, Florida to Indy, I had read every article. I had pitched my company to go remote because I wanted to, see the world. And I really thought I was going to do well. Like I was like, I got this. I'm going to excel at this remote work thing that I keep reading and hearing about. This was back in 2017. And so my first month was great. I was, yeah, waking up early, super proactive and productive, engaged. But then after that first month, you kind of start to lose some of that. You're like, oh yeah, like this is real. We are, I'm going to be working at my desk alone. I have my morning routine set up. I have, my check-in with my team. But then after that, it's sort of up to you to, yeah, you have work meetings and other errands that you may be doing throughout the day, but you don't actually have a set time to take that much needed break. And so for me, it was really hard to form that structure and to allow myself to be proactive in that way, to carve out that time. So in 2018, I was about to, like give up on remote work. I was like, this isn't for me. Didn't love the isolation that I was feeling. And also my productivity was going down as well. And I wasn't feeling like mentally healthy either. I was kind of suffering a lot there. And so in 2018, I was like, why isn't there a solution that helps folks um, structure their day in an easier way, but also why isn't there more accessibility for people that are at home to meet others? And so I spent like 6 months of 2018 just meeting new people in town for coffee. And that was my way to not only get out of the house and try new coffee shops, but also to create that space for myself, to break away from my computer, to leave whatever, task I had to reply to for my engineers or design I had to draw up for my product managers. And so having that time away really helped me. And that's where the idea kind of came from. I kind of thought, can I expose this to every remote worker that's out there? Can I help them create this time? And can I leverage, my knowledge of product and my knowledge of being in the remote workspace to build something really simple that, can connect people and create that space for them that I think it's sort of hard to do on your own in the beginning. And when you look at the time right now with COVID, it's even like a bigger problem, right? Companies are just going to be more distributed, more disconnected, and so are people, right? So can I bridge that gap somehow with this product it's not at the stage right now that I want it to be, but it's growing and I'm iterating as I go, and I'm learning new things like every single day about what people want and what they don't want. So it's just a big learning experience, and it's been awesome to see, how the folks that use it really end up like enjoying the fact that they're meeting somebody new. They're taking that time on their calendar, and it's all done for them. Like we take care of like all the things. All you really have to do is
Right.
fill out that first profile form, and then we get that match invite in your email.
Got it. And it's completely free at this point, right? You're in early access.
Yes, completely free right now. Like you mentioned earlier, we do have Buy Me a Coffee set up on our page, and we sort of use that right now as a way to not only gauge, what folks would pay, which I know Buy Me a Coffee isn't like, this is what folks would pay if I actually had a
Hmm.
subscription model there, but it helps us because all of that money, even if it's $20, $30 a month, that's all going back into the product.
Right. And that's what I was going to ask is, well, A, since it's free, if you're listening to this, again, whether you're watching it live or listening to this on the podcast, if you feel isolation because you're working from home, uh, head to meetcafecito.com, enter your info. You don't have much to lose. If you decide you don't like it, I'm sure you can unsubscribe pretty quickly, and
Yes.
there's no real cost in trying it out.
Yeah.
I will admit, I'm an introvert, and I have worked from home for almost 2 decades, like I was saying. It is rare that I actually feel lonely. So it's kind of, I don't think that this is for someone like me who can just sit alone for 8 hours. Like to me, I'm a maker and I'm just like, oh man,
Mhm.
3 computer screens and some headphones and I'm golden. And about once a month, I think, I wish coffee shops were open. That's how I am right now. And I did, like
Yeah.
last week was my once a month where I was like, man, I really wish I could go to a coffee shop. But I know that there are so many folks. And I think that's the mistake that a lot of these remote companies, when I listen to, some Silicon companies or the first companies, the Basements or whatever, say, yeah, you don't need an office. And it's like, but you're a bunch of introverts. You've hired 50
Yeah.
introverts and you've got, maybe lucked out with it. I think there's a real, now that COVID has forced the extroverts to work remote, I do think that
Mhm.
there's a need for tools like Cafecito, and is there one called Donut in Slack? Is that
Yeah.
what it's called?
There's
Donut time coffee?
Donut.
I don't, yeah,
Donut, yeah, yeah, yep. There's a lot of tools popping up. There's also Lunch Club as well, and there's a few out there that are sort of doing similar
yeah.
things, just connecting people.
Yep. And I think, I mean, yeah, so there's a lot of value there. So if you listen to this, obviously, check it out. I want to find out before we, because I have some thoughts now that we've talked about it, I have some thoughts on how I would, like if I were in your shoes, how I would try to market this and some pricing I would consider and some avenues I might go down. But before we do that, I'm curious how the Buy Me a Coffee donation approach is working. You said $20 or $30 earlier. Is that approximately what you're getting each month?
Yes, so that's good, the average that we're getting each month. And then in the beginning, I was kind of pushing it a lot more, but I think
Hmm.
it's the fact that I need to be consistently kind of pushing it in our email campaigns or after each call and saying like, hey, if you enjoyed the call, donate over here. What I've
Hmm.
noticed is that most folks either pay once or twice. So there's
Hmm.
usually a gap between the first donation and the second one. Um, but I feel like if I were to do a better job of like pushing that support page a little more in more places, maybe on the
Hmm.
video call, things like that, I could kind of increase that those donations, which are super helpful. Like super grateful that people even donated in the first place. So it's really awesome.
Right. Right. Cool. If you, as a reminder, if you are listening to this live, please do feel free to post questions in the MicroConf on air Slack channel of MicroConf Connect. So I'm given some thinking. I want to find out. It seems to me like the easiest way to market this is going to be to latch onto a network effect, latch onto some other people's audiences in essence, and of course, I'm so much a fan of B2B rather than going directly to end consumers. So like
Yeah.
the first thing I thought of is, integrating with Slack and Microsoft Teams and Facebook Workspace or what I don't, there's the Google. I mean, everybody, there's like four of the big platforms, right? Maybe the
Yeah.
top three. I know that requires code and you're not there yet because it's still a no code product, but I know there's competition there as well. Um, but is that an angle? Do you feel like that market or that place is so saturated that it's not worth you doing? And that potentially, because on the flip side, I also feel like right now you don't have to use Slack to use Cafecito. It's
Mhm.
all via email, and everyone has email. So you could approach companies, or try to find companies. Like when I was still working at Drip, and we had, I don't know, there were 60, 70 of us, and they wanted new employees to interface, to have coffee or to, have a lunch with an seasoned employee or whatever. And I think they did that with Donut. And it was fine and it worked great, but not everyone uses Slack. So are you the non-Slack alternative to solving that problem, but you sell it into organizations? You know, have you thought about going down that
Yes.
road, or do you want to stay with the individuals?
No, I have thought about it, and it's something that we're sort of like stealthily working on the
Yeah.
side. Um, we do see a potential, especially with folks like Donut. I think Donut's kind of the first, Slack bot that sort of did the matching process. It's fairly random. It's not like, we can't put interest in and understand if we would make a good match or a good conversation. So from the folks that I've talked to and did a little bit of discovery calls on the B2B end, there is space. And I think what you just said is correct. Like I think we could be that alternative to Slack if you don't. I know a lot of tech companies use Slack, but there's so many other industries that don't. Law
Yeah.
firms, law industry. So there's, other verticals there. But yes, I have thought about it, and I think we could also make a lot of impact on that front as well if you were able to break in, or at least like you said, start off with emails and then grow into an actual
Yeah.
platform with like an interface and all that fun stuff.
Right. Well, because the thing is until 7 months ago, 7 months ago, pre-COVID, a lot of tech companies use Slack, and a lot of tech companies a lot are remote. And
Hmm.
like you said, there's law firms, there's construction firms, there's like the rest of the world that is not
Yeah.
tech and is not remote, and they are now forced to be remote because of COVID. So I think now is a real opportune time for you to do this. So if I were in your shoes and if I had raised buckets of venture capital, which I know you have not, I would make it
Yes.
free for individuals and then do the Slack playbook, right? Free for individuals,
Hmm.
unlimited, and then try to infiltrate the orgs. And then, when people want whatever unlimited history and all this configuration to be able to target people as new versus existing, and matching and blah, blah, blah. That would be the premium plan. That's $5 a month per user, $10 a month per user, whatever the pricing winds
Yeah.
up. You don't have infinite money. You're bootstrapping. So instead, personally, I would approach it again. I've thought about this product for exactly 20 minutes. So you've been doing it for 8 months and I've been doing it for 20 minutes. So take this with a grain of salt. But I would have probably either a 2 or a 4 week trial, and then I would do $49 for a year for a 1 year subscription, and see if the value's there. Some people are going to say this is a no-brainer. That's $4 a month for people, not for knowledge workers. Like I spent more on that on drinks when I went out with my wife the other day, and
Yeah.
so anyways, that price point feels like a no-brainer. It's gonna be hard to scale up big time, but I see this as a dual funnel app. I've been using this term a lot lately, where really you have this free, this lower end, lower cost funnel, but the real money here is going to be, I think, with businesses going directly to startups and established companies.
Yeah, would you, from your perspective, and I know you just mentioned it's only been 20 minutes, from your perspective, would you sort of set up the model and, like you said, so you'd have the free just for individuals, use it to connect with folks individually, not within your company, and then you'd have more
Mhm.
of the business or enterprise, whatever you want to call it, um, where you would have more of that organization set
Yes,
up.
that's
Yeah,
that's
okay.
the thought, is that if I'm
Yeah.
using this as an individual and I don't control who I match with. I don't have any
Hmm.
choice it aside intro dig, and but obviously your onboarding and your marketing says, hey, there's a paid version of this, or there's a an enterprise version or a company version, right? It's like, I think of
Yeah.
like LastPass, where there's LastPass free, there's LastPass $12 a year, which is personal, and there's LastPass Pro or enterprise, and Tiny Seed pays for that, and because it gives us all this control. So it's the same thing,
Yeah.
where again, ideally you'd have a totally free plan, but I don't know as a bootstrap you really want to do that. So maybe that one's $49 a year, and you just get you don't control who you match with, but your marketing is basically saying, hey, you probably work at an org that really wants its employees to
Hmm.
connect with one another. The moment you
Yeah.
want that, look at the feature set here. And that one is, again, it's $5 a month per user, or, the pricing conversation, we can throw out ideas, but that would all be
Yeah, no,
testing.
for sure.
There's a good question from James Kennedy on YouTube, and from YouTube, he's watching it there. He says, is there a B2B chat roulette style version for team building, which I think is what we're talking about here? Basically a chat roulette, where you and I are talking about doing it, maybe pairing people up once or twice or 3 times a week, but he's almost saying, chat roulette, where it's like, hey, everybody
Yeah.
gets together for an hour or 2 hours, right? And that would be the paid version, because now a company is getting value from this.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
it's not
Yeah,
built yet,
that's a really good
right?
idea. I love that. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
not built yet. But that is a good idea that I would love to explore more. And I think the chat roulette sort of style could build some of that that lost quick conversation that you used to have, you know, passing your coworker as you were on the way to the bathroom, or, as
Yeah.
you went over to walk to the coffee shop. It's not as like scheduled, like, hey, here's a time on your calendar, but maybe it's more a set weekly time or something where your HR person can say, all right, cool, the company's going to break into these groups, and we're just going to do a quick chat roulette. And obviously it would be guided, so you would have some guidance
Mhm.
in what to talk about, who you're talking to, shared interests, things like that. So yeah, that's a really good idea.
Super interesting stuff. And it's pretty amazing what you can build these days with the no code
Yes,
movement.
100%. Yeah, and it's
Hmm.
affordable too, so it kind of keeps not all the costs low, but many of the costs
Yeah.
low for the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. And the more I think about it, as much as I like the idea of integrating with Slack and Microsoft Teams, well, I wonder. I I feel like a differentiator you have is that you don't need that right now, and I do
Yeah.
like that. But then, of course, then our next question is, okay, so how do you find these companies to partner with, or to become customers, basically? And that may just be the grassroots hustle of, I'm going to be on Hacker News and Indie Hackers, and I'm going to be tweeting, and I'm going
Yeah.
to do a podcast tour, and I'm going to, at least the
Hmm.
mostly bootstrap space is pretty small, and it's not hard to get on those blogs and podcasts and make yourself known. And then you get someone like whoever, a Josh Pigford with Baremetrics, or you get Jordan Gall with his
Hmm.
30 people at Carthook, realizing,
Yeah.
oh, this is something I need. And she's bootstrapping this, and I'm gonna give it a shot and see how it goes. And um, again, in your shoes, I don't know financially where you're at, but there is goodwill in this space. And I think there might be some people who'd be willing to say, hey, I'm going to prepay even for a year, for my team to help you fund the development of this thing. So
Yeah.
that might be an avenue, that you want to go, if you don't have the resources to have this built. There's a comment from YouTube from Sajad Torkamani, and he says, some companies love the team building activities, so probably some money there, which I think is, when I think team building, I do kind of think chat roulette. You think? Or is there any
Yeah.
other way you
Yeah.
could virtually do team building? I don't know that anything comes to mind for me.
I would say conversation, but also using maybe those first 5 minutes as a way to do like a small activity of some sort. So, you know, something cheesy like draw how you're feeling or something, right? Not saying that's
Mm-hmm.
the best example, but something where you take 5 minutes before the call to quickly like draw out your weekend, or what's your big dragon for this week that you're trying to overcome. Whatever that is, I think that like those moments of human connection where we don't just focus on our profession and where we worked before we got to this company, those are like the golden nuggets of the team building pieces, right? Because like we can talk about
Right.
what we do all day, but what about, let's spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes, let's talk about anything else but the work life for a little bit. That can really help with team building as well. So I wonder, that's a big piece of it too. Like I wonder if there's the chat roulette would guide you in a way to not only have those conversations about work and your profession, but also the human aspects of you, and find commonality, right, in us and our
Yeah.
philosophies, our perspectives, etc. Really great question though.
Yep. All right. Oh, okay. Comment from me. This is so. Producer Xander is interjecting. He's breaking the fourth wall and commenting on the app. Okay, so he says, since you have appointment slots, if you have a group meeting of all participants with a facilitator before splitting off into one-on-one meetings, that might be a cool way to create community within the company, but also give you a chance to
Yeah.
warm folks up before one-on-one meetings. So if you have a group meeting of all participants with a facilitator before splitting, right? Okay, so he's kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
indicating that you do get that. That's where you could facilitate something with four,
Hmm.
five, six people, and then split off. Yeah, like the
Yeah.
head of like
I've
the
had
leader,
that
right? The
mentioned.
head of the department.
Yeah, exactly. I've had that mentioned to me before, which I think is really interesting because, again, a lot of, at least when you get into 3+ people, it gets a little weird if you don't have a clear
Yeah,
leader, or the extrovert of the group. So I think
totally.
that's again very good idea as well, like having one person dedicated. Um, yeah, to just the first 5 minutes of that call, lead a small exercise with the team that's on it. That would be really interesting,
Yep.
actually.
Yeah.
I like that.
So there's another question, Sajad Torkamani from YouTube. He said, "Did you say you were considering building this without code? If so, what tool/platform were you considering?" And to clarify that, you have currently built it with Airtable, right? It's a form, and then there's the logic
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Airtable. But building what we're talking about, I don't know you could do that with. I don't think you can do it with no code. There's a lot of code in there.
I don't
Is
think
that
so
your take on it?
either. Yeah, I don't think so either. We would probably, yeah, we would probably have a developer most likely build that out. There would
Yeah.
just be a lot more of a complicated, complicated mess of things that we
Yeah.
have to account for, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you set up? I mean, as we're coming up on time, ask how do you set up the chat themselves? Like, do you just email each other the person's phone number and it's via phone, or is there any type of web conference tool that you know is used or integrated with?
Yeah, so we're actually leveraging daily.co, which they came out of YC, I believe, a few years ago, and it's a third party video API. So we literally just leverage that, and that comes into your calendar invite and also the email confirming your match. So pretty much we just say, hey, you've matched with Rob. Rob does this as his background. These are his interests, and the link to the video call. So it's very simple. I didn't want to overcomplicate it, at least not right now when we're super scrappy and
Hmm.
small. Um, but down the line, I'm sure we can build out our own system. But yeah, right now I'm kind of of that mindset. If I can leverage other tools that already do the thing that I need to do, like video or
Oh,
um,
absolutely.
database, let's
Yeah.
do it for right now. Yeah.
Yeah. at 400 users, I mean, there's no reason to, at 400 free users, there's no reason to be doing anything more
Yeah,
fancy than
for
what you're
sure.
doing.
Yes.
So, well, excellent. Irma, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. If folks want to keep up with you on Twitter, you are _just Irma. And of course, meetcafecito.com if folks want to check it out. Really appreciate what you
Awesome.
do
Thank
for
you
the
for having
Bootstrap
me.
community. Absolutely.
Appreciate you having me on here and really good meeting everybody and great questions. It makes me think and think of different perspectives as well. So thank you
Yep.
for the great questions.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on the show. All right. As we move towards wrapping up, I want to thank Hey and Stripe for being our headline partners for this year. We've really enjoyed being partnered with Hey and Stripe and make everything we do just a little easier. And now we are going to watch. I talked about State of Independent SaaS at the top end, and we want to, what do we have, about a 9-second video here, me talking more about the project and what we're up to. And so producer Xander's going to roll that here. Second annual. Hi there, Rob Walling here, co-founder of MicroConf. Last year, we launched the inaugural State of Independent SaaS survey to take a look at the who, what, when, where, and how much of the global bootstrapped and mostly bootstrapped SaaS industry. We opened the curtain on the segment of SaaS that isn't chasing after venture funding and discovered things like we're spread across the globe in more than 340 cities, 56% of us are single founders, and 3 out of 4 of us who offer a free trial do not ask for credit card upfront. The MicroConf State of Independent SaaS report serves as the only deep look at non-venture track SaaS benchmarks and metrics. When we began, our hope was to update it every year, and I'm here to announce that the 2021 State of Independent SaaS survey is now open. You might be wondering if you should complete this survey. It's for SaaS companies making at least $1 in monthly recurring revenue who have not raised traditional venture capital. Maybe you're bootstrapped or self-funded, you've raised from friends and family or angels, or one of the independent funding sources like TinySeed or Indie.vc. Do yourself and the community a favor. Head over to stateofindysaas.com and spend less than 10 minutes to complete the survey, which covers a range of topics unique to our world across marketing, metrics, operations, founder backgrounds, and more. As a special thank you, we'll include the Marketing Insights bonus chapter in your report when we release it in January. Feel free to share the survey on the socials and be sure to tag #MicroConf. Thanks for helping us serve the bootstrapped and mostly bootstrapped SaaS founders around the world.